Welcome back. You're continuing to watch NewsX. We are, of course, focusing on the Mauritius visit of Prime Minister Modi. Ambassador Goel, which way are India-Mauritius ties headed post this visit by Prime Minister Modi? What all is on the agenda of his talks?
You asked me which way the India-Mauritius relations or the talks are headed. The main subjects for the conversation is going to be uncertain Indian Ocean security. We have already spoken about the Chagos Island, where I think essentially with the support of the government of India, the agreement that was arrived at last year in October was, I think, on the whole, a reasonably good agreement. Nobody gets everything, but it did resolve the issue of the sovereignty on the Chagos Island, the UK deployment in the Diego Garcia. So on the whole, that was a good agreement, and it has our support. But I think the most important thing is going to be the role that Mauritius is going to play. Mauritius is going to play in the whole Indian Ocean security. As we know, Mauritius and Sri Lanka and Maldives are part of the Colombo Security Framework, Colombo Security Cooperation. And in that sense, it is important to essentially see how all four, particularly Mauritius, can play a role in that security. We are also, of course, going to be talking about trade. India is an important trade partner for Mauritius, and the trade has grown over the previous years. Essentially, India has been the first provider in cases of all emergencies. So on the whole, I see that this visit, where Prime Minister Modi will be taking part in their National Day celebration, is going to further strengthen those ties in terms of trade, the people. Cultural ties are very important, and most importantly, to my mind, the Indian Ocean security framework. Uday.
In fact, Major Leke Sivach, strategically, how important is this partnership for Mauritius with India? Because, of course, we have seen, as I said earlier in my opening remarks as well, the tilt of Maldives towards China, the suspicion of this MOU of Sri Lanka with China as well, which is why in the maritime domain, how important is this partnership with Mauritius?
Absolutely. See, Uday, as far as Mauritius is concerned, it is strategically located on a key location. That 40% of the sea lanes in Indian Oceans are passing almost about 500 to about 1,000 kilometer area of where Mauritius is located. And it is considered as a gateway to African continent. So no doubt about it, strategically it is very important to any country. And as far as India is concerned, it is considered to be strategically very important for 2-3 reasons. One is that we have a strategic, geographical, historical, cultural relation with them. There are 70% Indian population which is settled there, 50% are Hindus. But what is main thing is that the China is growing very fast in Indian Ocean, and you find always their submarines there in these areas, and therefore to neutralize China's influence in this area, you need to have a strategically important island like Mauritius, all a friendly country. And you know it that in case you can make a base there, that will be an ideal which we are trying to make it there, one of the islands we are trying to develop it. Now, as far as Mauritius otherwise is concerned, from the trade point of view, also very important trade partner. We are the largest trade partner as far as Mauritius is concerned. Free FTI, if you see investment in India is very huge of Mauritius. The another very important thing is that the comprehensive economic cooperation agreement of 2021 is a game changer between both the states. The trade is increasing day by day. Now, what is required is that in case Mauritius is so close to us, we want to sell weapons to Mauritius. And that is what now the discussion is going on. We want to make it stronger country. We want the influence of India, and we want to neutralize the influence of China. And therefore, with that aim, since you find that even Naveen Chandra Ram Ghulam is an Indian origin Prime Minister, Prime Minister Modi has gone almost 2-3 times, and also their Prime Minister has come to India 3 times, especially when Prime Minister Modi was basically taken an oath in 2014, 19, and 24. So the point today is that as far as we are concerned, Mauritius is a very strategically located in Indian Ocean, an important country. We need to maintain a good relation, and we want to have a base there, which will be, you can say, a gateway to African continent. All in all, I suppose our trade is going, our capacity building going, our infrastructure development is going with them. Also, we want to ensure that the financial crimes which are taking place between both the countries, they also need to be covered. But certainly one feel is Mauritius is a very, very important country to us since it lies into the heart of Indian Ocean, and we have no other choice but to have the best of the relation and try to make a military base in time to come.
Okay, let me in fact get in Professor Madhav Nalapath as well at this point on the broadcast. Professor Nalapath, as far as of course now our ties with Mauritius go, they have a historic relationship with India. The Indian diaspora there is a significant amount of their population. Prime Minister Modi, interestingly, also has a special connect with Mauritius. He visited it even before he was Chief Minister of Gujarat or held a public office position. So how hopeful are you of this partnership being strengthened through this 48-hour state visit of the Prime Minister?
The government of Mauritius made a very clear gesture of their respect for Prime Minister Modi by inviting him as a chief guest of the National Day celebrations. That's not a casual invite. That's probably the most important invite in Mauritius. National Day is an extremely important event in the calendar of that country. And of course, the Prime Minister has accepted it. And I do believe it will be a successful visit for a simple reason that personal diplomacy is something the Prime Minister excels at. And he knows very well the significance of Mauritius. Whether it's Maldives, whether it's Sri Lanka, very frankly, we need to ensure that a hostile presence there is, if it is there, it is eliminated. At some stage or the other, we need that hostile presence to be legally terminated by the government there. And I think we have to be working on that. Both Maldives and Sri Lanka are presenting challenges for Indian security because of the fact that the Chinese have tried to move in. Now, the good luck is that the Chinese are facing increasing headwinds from the United States. And you have, in the case of Mauritius, India is playing a very helpful role to Mauritius in ensuring its sovereignty over the Chagos archipelago. And India is doing a very nuanced balancing. And that nuanced balancing is that India is very clear that they also support the continuance of the present US base there. It's far better that you have a US base than you have a Chinese base, which unfortunately is the case in one or two locations nearby. So I'd like to say Mauritius is a very, very important country. Mauritius should not go in any direction except in an India-friendly direction and a US-friendly, Quad-friendly direction. And I think from that point of view, this visit is very important. And I think it's a first step in ensuring that the Maldives and Sri Lanka also, the hostile presence is legally terminated and replaced by preferably the Indian presence. Thank you, Uday.
The sudden closeness of Sri Lanka with China as well.
Sorry.
Commodore Singh, can you hear me? Okay, I think Commodore Singh cannot hear me. Yes, Professor Nalapath,
No,
why don't you take
I
that?
can hear you.
Yes,
I can hear you,
Professor
but I lost
Nalapath,
you
as
in
far as, of
between.
course, Maldives and Sri Lanka tilt is concerned, is that concerning? Professor Nalapath?
Is that?
No, there's no question it's a concern, Uday, because the fact is that China is not a friendly neighbor. I mean, they've been making gestures of peace, essentially because they find that the US front is basically quite hostile. And they, above all, they don't want India to be part of a security construct which could be a transformation of the Quad. So they're desperate to keep India and the United States from coming closer from a security point of view. And they're making all these friendly gestures. Remember, they made these gestures many times in the past. You had Pansil, you had Hindi Chini Bye Bye, you had so many gestures, including after the current government came to power, they said they're all right, you vacate the Kailash Heights and we'll do XYZ. Well, we acted in good faith and we vacated the Kailash Heights and no XYZ. The Chinese did nothing. In fact, they only expanded their presence as they're expanding in the so-called South China Sea. So I'd like to say, Uday, that Maldives and Sri Lanka are very important, and Maldives and Sri Lanka must understand there's no such thing as a free lunch. If you don't respect India's security, India has no reason to respect your concerns. So I think this Mauritius is a very, very good start to what I hope will be during Modi 3.0, a winning conclusion to security dilemma we are facing from the Maldives and from Sri Lanka. Thank you, Uday.
Okay, let me in fact quickly, try and attempt to go back to Commodore Singh. Commodore Anil Jai Singh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you clearly, Uday.
Okay, Commodore Anil Jai Singh, yes. Your comment, of course, on India-Mauritius, this partnership, what all you believe will be on the agenda when talks happen, what aspects of our partnership are going to be focused on?
I think, if you really look at the India-Mauritius relationship, when Prime Minister Modi went there in 2015, he made two comments which have almost become the cornerstone of our approach to the region. One, of course, was Sagar, security and growth for all in the region, which has now become a policy for inclusive, collaborative capacity building. And the second thing he said, which was very telling, he said that, the blue chakra in the center of the Indian flag reflects the importance of the ocean economy to India. Now, that was a rare statement coming from a head of government, because India, we were always under the impression that, the maritime sector is getting neglected. And I think that was the first real telling comment to say that, no, it's not neglected. And now we're looking at the maritime sector afresh. So in the Indian Ocean, India is today the preeminent power. The great power contestation that's going to happen between the US and an aspiring China will perhaps take place in the Indian Ocean, because it is the Indian Ocean which gives China, firstly, the sea space to project power, and secondly, it gives China access to the Atlantic, which is absolutely essential if China has to flex its military muscle around the globe. Now, China has, through its Belt and Road Initiative and various other, its economic so-called largesse, has established itself in a number of strategic places in the Indian Ocean, ports and bases. Not bases so much, but ports mainly. So it is very important that India doesn't, loosen its favorable maritime position. And Mauritius is a very important strategically located island for India in the Indian Ocean, because firstly, it gives India a vantage look over the southwestern Indian Ocean, particularly the Mozambique Channel. A lot of trade comes from there. China already has a presence over there. In the rest of the Indian Ocean, we've seen China trying to make inroads into the Maldives, into Sri Lanka, as has been brought out. So if India does support Mauritius, and it is, particularly where Agalega is concerned, where there are reports that, media is reporting that India is setting up a base. But I think it is at the moment more about capacity building, because Mauritius does not have the wherewithal at the moment to secure its own large EEZ. And Mauritius is not the only country India has done this with. It's provided a lot of capacity building to many other countries in the region. And when I talk of capacity building, the Indian approach is not about just security. It's also growth for all in the region. So as we understand from the media, it's not only about the defense cooperation that will be spoken about. Maritime security will be an important element of this visit, but also the 20-odd multi-sectoral initiatives that India is helping Mauritius build capacity in, which Prime Minister Modi is expected to inaugurate. So I think it's a very comprehensive relationship. We are an important trade partner. We are an important historic, cultural, geographic partner to Mauritius. Mauritius also has to be wary of other external powers and extra-regional influences. With Diego Garcia not being too far and India having a favorable presence in that region, I think the southwestern Indian Ocean and the southern Indian Ocean can remain free of Chinese interference perhaps in the years to come. So I think Mauritius is extremely important to India. We've historically had good relations with them. In fact, the first ever, as a midshipman, my first naval overseas cruise was with the training squadron to Mauritius. That was way back in 1980. So that's how far and even much beyond that a relationship goes. At that time also we had Indian naval officers helping the Mauritians set up their coast guard. Thereafter we built a ship for them, which was commissioned by the Prime Minister in 2015. Their ships have been coming to India for repair. We've at various stages we've had Indian officers manning, heading their coast guard when they were setting it up, heading their military other facilities when they were setting up, hospitals, etc. At any given time, I think there are 8 to 10 or even maybe more Indian Armed Forces officers in Mauritius supporting, training and helping the Mauritians secure their own frontiers. So I think overall it's a very important relationship for India, as has been brought out. It gives India, it helps India retain its maritime edge, particularly in the western and southwestern Indian Ocean, where China is going to be a definite threat in the future. Presence at Agalega, with the Chinese trying to dominate the Mozambique Channel, information sharing with Mauritius, white shipping agreements, combating transnational and non-traditional threats, all of which will help India retain its sort of favorable maritime edge and its credentials as a preferred security provider and first responder in the region.
All right. My thanks to our guests for joining us on the broadcast.